warming my bottom just for a millisecond longer against this fire. Right, now we're into it. Okay, pasties, because winter needs pasties. Plus, I've been watching Poldark, the series, and it's all about Cornish pasties. Well, there's other stuff in there as well, but mostly I look at the food in anything, really, now that I think about it. Okay, so pasties are all the easier if you've already roasted your veggies. So if you haven't checked out our previous episode, which is about doing a weekly roast, do that first, and then you'll be able to hop into pasties without even an inkling of effort, because all you need to do is make pastry once your veggies are already roasted. Okay, let's do that then. Lots of people have asked me about how to make pastry when you're not using any animal products. So obviously I'm not about to put any cream or milk or eggs or anything like that in here. Can you make pastry? Yes, damn straight, you absolutely can. So spelt, which is just what I use, but if you don't have spelt flour, just use any plain white flour that you have. If you want to put some rye in there or you want to put some wholemeal in there, do that, but I would probably do no more than a third if you want to mix gnarlier flour back in with it. I've just got an unbleached spelt, which comes out looking like a white flour. Then salt. So 1.5 teaspoons, something like that. It's a little spoon. And the fat content is going to come from coconut oil. Now, this is solid, not just because it's cold, but because this is a virgin coconut oil and it sets like this. So this is what you want to look for, because this is going to mimic exactly what cold butter does in pastry. So don't melt this when you're making your pastry. Put it in straight in its solid state like this, and then that's going to leave those little pockets of fat so that when this hits the oven, that's going to give you that yummy flaky texture that we all love in pastry. That goes in, and then we'll give this a blitz, and then we'll add the water. Cold water, just like you would with any other pastry making. Noisy for a second. Essentially, you just want to make sure that the coconut oil has been dispersed somewhat through the flour. You don't need to mix it to the point where it's going to start to pull together, because you'll need water for that. So let's pop some of that in. I never add all the water at once because easier to add, very difficult to take away. So just do little bits at a time, like you would with any other pastry making. You'll see that it'll come together. So you're not going to be able to continue to emulsify that because it's done. So once it all sticks together like that, you are ready spaghetti, ready pastry, something. Look at that. It's the easiest pastry ever, and you have absolutely no animal fats in that, obviously. And some really good fats in that from the virgin coconut oil. Okay, so do you need to rest that pastry? Yeah, you can if you want. Do you want to pop it in the fridge overnight and make your pasties the next day? You can do that. I'm never that patient, so this is actually ready to go. I probably wouldn't leave it sitting in front of the fire to get really warm for any length of time, but I'm going to roll this out because I already have my roasted veggies, and we'll make some pasties. All right, so the pastry is the hardest part about these pasties, and that's really easy, so you can kind of get the gist that it's not going to be too taxing to be able to throw some of these together on a Saturday afternoon. Veggies that I've already roasted, so you can mix these up any way you like. If you're wondering, what do you mean she's already roasted vegetables? There's video for that, so go back and check that out, because this is my version of food prepping for the week. I just do a big roast, and then I have roasted vegetables that I can use in a gamut of things. So I love Brussels sprouts in pasties. Don't think that's weird. It's very good. I'm going to do some Brussels sprouts with the roasted fennel and roasted potatoes into our spelt pastry. So this is okay to sit out for a while, but if you haven't roasted veggies and you want to do that first, then I would put the pastry covered with some cling film back into the fridge. Don't let it get too warm or form a crust on the outside if it's exposed to the air. Okay, so let's get some veggies happening. Now, obviously with pasties, you want to have the vegetables cut up. You're not just going to have whole vegetables in there. I guess you could maybe try that. Not sure how it would work out. And because we're doing a mix of different veggies, I just generally try and have a ratio that's fairly even across the three of them in this case. So equal amounts of fennel and Brussels sprouts and potato. I'm just cutting out that harder, woodier core of the fennel, because when you roast fennel, you can just about eat all of it, but you'll feel when you're cutting it the aspects that can probably just get given to the chooks or the ducks. All right, and some Brussels. Now these won't need much. So good when they're roasted. I have to be honest, if I don't have pre-roasted vegetables, I actually don't make pasties. Just because the thought of having to sit around waiting for all of the vegetables to roast and then make pastry and then put it together, I just don't do it. So I'm trying to share the things that help me to get, you know, good, hearty, whole foods on my plate more often than not. And if you have other techniques as well, especially when it comes to meal prep, let me know, because I'm always open to ideas as to how I can make cooking all the healthier, but also more time efficient. Again, when you're doing pasties, make sure that you've preheated the oven, because you want that pastry hitting a hot oven. So I have my oven preheating at 200, and then when I put the pasties in, I'll knock that back to about 180. Just because when you open the door and then you put something that's not hot in there, obviously the temperature drops down. So we don't want that to happen for too long. Now, depending on how big you're going to make your pasties, you'll probably get 4 or 5 pasties out of this batch. So I tend to divide it first because I never weigh stuff. Oh, I'll probably get 4 out of this looking at these. And then just make a little ball out of each one. So you want to circle, because we're going to do more of that Cornish pasty style, a la Poldark. You know why they did that? You know why they made the pasties the way that they did in Cornwall? It's because the miners would take them down into the mines for lunch, and where the pastry comes together and gets crimped, that would be the handle that they would then eat like that. So it's almost, there was no lunchbox. They didn't have a lunchbox. They just took the pasties like that and they'd eat them. And often they wouldn't necessarily eat the crimping of the pastry. Madness. That's my favourite part. So once you've rolled out your circle, and it's probably a couple of mil thick, I guess, then take a mix of veggies, pop them on there. I usually do just a little schmitch more salt and some pepper at this stage. And then pull the 2 sides up and push those together all the way down. I always think about a stegosaurus at this point. Can you see where I'm going with this? It which reminds me of a little stegosaurus. And so then you crimp that, and you can see that that pastry is holding its own. You know, that's a really reliable, easy to make pastry that comes together in what, a couple of minutes? I guess we made that. So pop that little guy there. Get on to the next one. A little tip when you're trying to get a circle to roll out a circle is to just roll backwards and forwards, but just turn it a quarter each time, and then you will have a fairly even circle when you're doing your rolling. So I'm just crimping that by pulling a little section of the pastry behind itself and using my thumb and forefinger to squeeze it together. Now, if you want, you can put a little bit of like plant-based milk on there if you want to get that kind of egg wash finish. I just usually do a little bit of oil. And don't be tempted to overfill them because you're just going to bust your pastry. Because as if I haven't tried that before. Okay, into the oven for 20 minutes or as long as it takes to cook your pastry through, because that's all you're really cooking here. You're just reheating the veggies because they've already been done. Pasties, look at those little guys. So 4 of those ready to go in the time that it took to make the pastry, 5 minutes, and bake the pastry, 20 minutes. Done. Because you've already done your vegetables prior, so you're ready to go. Sauce, obviously. I can't actually eat pasties without my dad's homemade tomato sauce. And then you'd probably like to see inside of one of these, wouldn't you? So let's crack one open. That little guy. Oh yes. Ow, hot, but oh yes. All right, now you can see inside there. Pop the sauce back. Oh yeah. Some of that potato just fell out, so yeah. Pasties. Homemade, super easy, working off your meal prep earlier in the week with the weekly roast. Let me know if you like them. Love to see if you make them. You can always do the old hashtag all the things. The recipe, of course, will be on the website, allthethings.com.au.